She stepped onto the stage like she belonged there. Heels clicking back straight, chin high. My sister, Lila, dressed in sharp navy and confidence, stood under the spotlight as if the entire $1 million AI project was hers. And everyone clapped. I sat near the back of the massive conference room, still and silent, my fingers wrapped tightly around the USB drive in my pocket. The real files were in there. The ones she didn't have. I didn't blink. Didn't move. I just watched. On stage, she smiled. One of those magazine cover smiles, wide and charming. The kind that made people want to trust her, believe her. She was always good at that. Always. Even when we were kids, Lila had this shine. She was the golden child. The favorite. The one who never got grounded. Even when she broke the rules. I was the quiet one. The behind-the-scenes girl. She got applause, I got results. Growing up, Lila played the crowd, and I played with puzzles.
She went to parties.
I stayed in my room, building things that worked.
Code.
Circuits. Projects. My brain was my playground. And yet, somehow, she always ended up in the spotlight. Even when she didn't build a single thing. When this project first started, an AI-driven logistics model that could save companies over $1 million a year, I thought maybe things had changed. Maybe we were adults now. Maybe this time, we could be a team. She said she wanted to help with outreach, communication, presentations. I did the hard part, 4 months of building algorithms, testing data models, refining systems. Sleepless nights, cold dinners beside my laptop, weekends lost in spreadsheets and code. She sat in on a few meetings, took notes, nodded. I thought maybe she cared. Maybe she really was supporting me. But then, 3 days ago, I walked past the break room and heard her voice. She was rehearsing the pitch for my project. Alone. She told someone on the call, "I've been leading this project for months." Like I never existed. Like she built it from the ground up. That moment, it felt like a knife between my ribs. I didn't say anything.
Not then.
I just walked away, smiling to myself. And I started planning. And now, here we were. The lights dimmed. The audience went silent. And Lila, standing tall under the spotlight, raised the remote to begin.
Click.
Nothing. She clicked again.
Still nothing.
I watched, emotionless, as a tiny flicker of confusion passed over her face. She laughed lightly, brushing it off like a pro. "Sorry, folks. Just a little technical hiccup." But I knew. She didn't have the files. I had pulled them from the cloud. Replaced the deck with one line. "Good luck."
She didn't even know yet.
But she would. Oh, she would. The room waited.
So did I.
And in that silence, in that moment before the fall, I felt nothing but the steady beat of my heart and the weight of the truth in my hand. She'd smiled when she stole my work. Now I would smile, watching her try to explain something she never built. This wasn't just revenge. This was justice. For months. That's how long I worked on the project. For months of late nights and tired mornings. Of spreadsheets full of numbers that blurred together. Of code that broke at 2 a.m. and coffee that never stayed warm. I remember sitting at my desk one night, the only light in the apartment coming from my screen. The window was dark. The city outside quiet. Lila was out, again. Probably at some networking dinner or leadership mixer. She always knew how to talk the talk.
Me?
I built the engine while she revved it in front of the crowd. But this project, it was different. It mattered. And for a moment, I thought maybe she did too. She came to me when I got the green light. "I want to help," she said, smiling like we were kids again. "You build, I pitch. Like a dream team." And I wanted to believe her.
God, I wanted to. So I let her in.
I shared everything. The models. The vision. The why behind every line of code. I talked through datasets for hours. Let her see every weakness I was still fixing. She asked questions. Took notes. She said she was learning, that she was proud of me. I believed her. Until 3 days before the conference. It was late afternoon. I had just finished a call with a supply chain partner and stepped into the break room to grab a drink. That's when I heard her voice. The machine learning part? Yeah, I've been leading development since the start. It's been intense, but I think the results will really impress the board. My heart stopped. I didn't move. I stood in the hallway, frozen behind the wall, listening. She kept going, pitching my work to our manager like it was hers. Casual. Confident. Like she wasn't stealing every piece of me. I couldn't breathe. The bottle in my hand felt like dead weight. When the call ended, she walked right past me, sipping her coffee. "Hey," she said, smiling. Like nothing had happened.
I smiled back.
But something inside me cracked. Not from surprise. From recognition. This wasn't new. Lila had been doing this her whole lives. She'd steal my ideas, my words, my effort, and turn them into applause. And every time, I stayed quiet. Because I didn't want to cause drama. Because she was family. Because I thought if I worked hard enough, people would see me too. But this time was different. This time, there was a $1.29 million deal on the line. So that night, I went home, sat at my laptop, opened the project folder, and took everything down. I replaced the final presentation with a blank shell and one line of text. Just one. Good luck. No threats. No warning. She'd already written me out of the story. I just made sure her version had no ending. Lila stood center stage, wrapped in confidence and spotlight. The massive screen behind her stayed dark. She held the presentation remote like a mic, ready to sing a song she hadn't written. I sat in the third row. Not too close. Close enough to watch her fall. I had timed everything down to the second. The room was full, executives, engineers, department heads, and investors. People who could change careers with a sentence. People who knew my name barely. But they knew hers. She raised the remote and clicked. Nothing. She smiled through it. Just a little glitch, she said, pressing again. Still nothing. I leaned back in my chair, folded my hands in my lap, and watched. Her eyes flicked to the screen, then to the laptop on the podium. I knew what she saw. One single file. A blank document with 2 words typed in bold. Good luck. She didn't flinch, not yet. She kept talking, trying to stay on script. Our AI system streamlines warehouse operations by identifying lag points in logistics flow, she said, her voice light, breezy. I recognized the words. My words. Lines we'd rehearsed together in my apartment. Notes I had written in the margins of my sketchbook. She kept talking, improvising. I could hear the cracks forming. She mentioned our timeline. Got it wrong. She tried explaining the core algorithm. Jumbled the terms. Then she said we used predictive delivery mapping, which we didn't. I caught the VP's eyebrow lift slightly. Someone near me jotted something down. I didn't move. Didn't speak. I wanted her to finish the lie. I wanted her to walk the whole tightrope. Because there was no net. And she didn't even know how far down the drop was. Can you show us the impact model graph? Someone asked. Her mouth opened.
Closed.
I think there's been a sync issue with the files, she said, laughing nervously. The VP leaned forward in his seat. You told me the final deck was ready last week, our manager said. It was, she snapped. I thought it was in the cloud folder. She opened the folder again. Still empty. Except for those 2 words. Good luck. She went pale. This time, her eyes did find me. And I looked right back. No smirk. No gloating. Just the truth between us. Sharp. Unspoken. Heavy. The VP turned slightly in his chair. You were involved in this project too, weren't you? He asked me. I waited half a beat. Yes, I said. He gave a small nod. Do you happen to have the working presentation? I reached into my bag, slow and calm. Slid the USB into the port. The screen lit up behind her. The first slide appeared, crisp and clean. Optimizing AI logistics, Phase 1 results. My title, my design, my model. The audience murmured. A few people leaned forward. Lila didn't speak. She stepped back, hands clenched at her sides. And I stood up, walked to the front with measured steps, my pulse steady. The VP gestured to the screen. Please walk us through it. I nodded. This model was developed over 4 months, I said clearly, with a focus on streamlining warehouse delivery systems using AI-driven optimization. Slide 2 appeared, my custom diagram comparing traditional flow versus our model. We started by identifying pain points, shipment lags, miscommunication, and system-wide delays. I didn't rush.
I didn't brag.
I just told the truth. Lila was now a shadow off to the side, barely visible beyond the spotlight. I could feel her eyes on me. I didn't turn. Not yet. I showed them the data models, the tested algorithms, the 37% improvement in shipment accuracy, the trial reports, the predictive analytics graph. And then finally I paused
And turned to her.
She was still staring. Her mouth was slightly open like she wanted to speak, but nothing came out. She wasn't just embarrassed. She was exposed. For years, I'd worked in her shadow. Let her take more than her share. Let her talk louder while I typed longer.
But today?
Today the spotlight remembered who built the stage. As the last slide faded behind me, I gently closed my laptop. The room was quiet. Not awkward quiet, weighted quiet, like the air had thickened, like gravity had shifted. All eyes were on me now, not her. The VP leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. That was excellent, he said. Clean, sharp, and thorough. Very impressive. I nodded once. Thank you. He turned his head slowly toward Lila, still standing frozen off to the side like a statue that hadn't realized it had cracked. Is there anything you'd like to add? He asked. She opened her mouth, tried to find words. I wasn't aware the latest files hadn't synced properly, she said, voice tight. I thought, well, it doesn't matter now. I'm just glad the team effort paid off. Team effort. That phrase floated in the air for a second too long. I tilted my head, said nothing, but the message was loud enough. She flinched just barely. The kind of tiny movement people make when something invisible hits them. The meeting ended a few minutes later. People got up slowly, whispering to one another. Some looked at me with new eyes. Some didn't look at her at all. She stood behind the table, arms crossed too tightly, lips pressed into a thin line. I packed my things calmly, like it was any other Tuesday. But I could feel her behind me, just standing there. I zipped my laptop bag and turned. Why? She whispered, her voice low, almost bitter. Why did you do that to me? I met her eyes fully for the first time all day. They were red around the edges. Her mascara had started to smudge. And I asked her the only question that mattered. Why did you? That shut her up. There was no comeback for that. She knew it. I stepped a little closer, voice soft but sharp. You didn't just take credit, I said. You tried to erase me. But here's the thing, Lila. I leaned in just enough. If you don't understand how the engine works, you can't fake driving the car. And then I walked away. No grand exit. No mic drop. Just quiet steps. But every one of them felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The fallout didn't explode. It unfolded, slow, creeping, and unstoppable. No dramatic emails. No HR meetings. Just silence. The next morning, she came in late, blazer buttoned too high, like she needed armor. People didn't avoid her, they just didn't include her. Conversations paused when she walked by. Laughter softened. Even the air around her felt heavier. And me? My inbox blew up. Subject: about your presentation yesterday. Subject: incredible work. Would love to sync. Subject: Can we schedule a time to walk through your data models? People who hadn't spoken to me in months were suddenly inviting me to brainstorm sessions, asking for my opinion, quoting my lines in meetings. I didn't gloat. I didn't have to. The truth was doing all the work for me now. On Friday, I got a calendar invite from the VP's assistant. No back and forth. No reason listed. Just one line. Meeting you plus him. When I stepped into his office, he smiled like he'd been expecting me. I'll get straight to the point, he said. You've got talent, real vision, but more importantly, discipline. He didn't say Lila's name. He didn't have to. It was like she was already being erased from the future, one meeting at a time. We want you leading the next phase, he continued. If the numbers keep trending strong, you'll report directly to me. I nodded, steady, grateful, but calm. Inside, something uncoiled. Something I didn't know I'd been holding in for years. I wasn't just seen now. I was chosen. And that changes everything. The silence came first. Not the kind that shouts with awkwardness, but the kind that seeps into corners. That spreads. That sticks. Lila still showed up to work. Still walked in wearing that same blazer. Still flashed that paper-thin smile to whoever dared meet her eyes. But something had changed. It wasn't loud. It was missing. People stopped turning toward her when she spoke. They didn't ask for her opinion in meetings. They didn't forward her follow-ups. They didn't whisper behind her back. They just looked past her. Her desk, once a hub of energy and noise, little chats, jokes, compliments, was now quiet. Just her screen, and the sound of no one caring. That's what guilt looks like when it loses its shine. Meanwhile, my world got louder. My calendar filled up faster than I could keep track. People who once barely noticed me were now looping me into projects, asking for my models, inviting me to present to leadership. Great work on Tuesday. Your data visualization was brilliant. I didn't realize you had such a strong grasp on strategic modeling. I nodded, smiled, delivered. But I didn't brag. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth was working on my behalf now. Silently, steadily, one meeting at a time. And Lila? She tried to talk to me again. Cornered me in the break room. Her voice wasn't as soft this time. It had an edge. A crack. You think you've won? She hissed. I didn't even look up from my coffee mug. There wasn't a game, I said calm. She stepped closer. Lowered her voice. You could have come to me. You didn't have to embarrass me like that. Now I looked up, met her eyes, and said, I didn't embarrass you. You did that all on your own. Her jaw tightened. I could see the way her teeth clenched, her nails dug into her palms. I was just trying to make a name for myself, she muttered. Then maybe, I said, you should have used your own work. I walked past her then, leaving behind the bitter scent of burnt coffee and regret. And from that moment on, she stopped trying, stopped fighting, stopped showing up with purpose. She was still physically there, still logged into meetings, still sent the occasional email, but something vital had drained out of her. Her notes were shorter, her voice quieter. When our manager assigned her a minor task, just validating numbers for a side report, she didn't complain. She just nodded. It was like watching a person shrink, not suddenly, but slowly,
Piece by piece.
like her presence was dissolving into the background. And no one said anything. But everyone noticed. It was Wednesday, 6:17 p.m. I had just packed up my laptop when the email hit my inbox. Subject: transition. I clicked. The message was short. No fluff. No goodbye. Effective immediately, I will be stepping back from my current role to explore new opportunities. I'm proud of the work we've done together. Please direct all ongoing inquiries related to the logistics initiative to my name. That was it. No signature. No thank you. No farewell party. Just a quiet exit. I stared at the screen for a moment, waiting maybe for another message to follow. Nothing came. There was no announcement from leadership. No awkward best wishes email chain. No card. No cake. Just silence. By the end of the week, her desk was cleared out. Her chair pushed in. A small cardboard box appeared near HR store. Inside was her nameplate, her coffee mug, a few tangled cords. No one asked about her. No one said her name. She had vanished the same way her confidence had. Suddenly, and then completely. That night, I sat by the window in my apartment, a glass of dark wine in hand. The city hummed below, cars crawling like glowing beetles through the streets, horns echoing into the dark. I read the email again. Not with joy. Not with guilt. Just stillness. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like freedom. The kind you don't even realize you've been missing until it wraps itself around your shoulders like warm air. And no, I didn't smile. But I did breathe deeper than I had in weeks. What she took from me wasn't just a file or a spotlight. It was belief. Belief in myself. In my work. And now I had it back. 2 months later, I stood on a different stage. Same company. Same logo on the wall. But everything else had changed. This wasn't a pitch anymore. It was a rollout. The national launch of the initiative, the same one that almost got stolen. And now, it had my name on it. The lights dimmed. The room filled with department heads, executives flown in from other branches, even a few external partners. They were all waiting. Not for her. For me. I clicked the remote. The first slide appeared. A bold title across a sleek map. AI Logistics Rollout. National Phase. Projected savings. $14.2 million. Estimated efficiency gain. 38%.
Presented by me.
I cleared my throat and spoke. No nerves. No rush. Just a voice that knew what it was talking about. Because this time, the story was mine. And I was the one writing it. As I walked them through each stage, the trials, the results, the integration roadmap, I could feel the difference. They weren't just listening. They were invested. Some were nodding. Others scribbling notes. One executive leaned forward, so far I thought he might climb onto the table. And all I did was tell the truth.
Clear.
Simple. Undeniable. This time, I didn't have to fight for space. There was no one trying to stand in front of me. No shadows to dodge. No credit to share with someone who hadn't earned it. Every line on that slide came from my hands. Every number? From nights of trial, error, and caffeine. And every nod of approval felt earned. I saw it in their faces. Respect. Not because I was loud or charming, but because I showed them what real work looked like when it's done with care. After the presentation, people gathered around. Handshakes. Congratulatory smiles. One VP even said, "You made that look easy." I smiled back politely. But inside, I knew exactly how hard it had been. And I didn't regret a second of it. Later that day, I returned to my desk. And there it was. A small white envelope. No label. No initials. I opened it. Inside, a single line, rushed, almost scribbled. "I'm sorry. No name." But I didn't need one. I knew it was from her. I sat there for a moment, just staring at it. The paper was thin.
Shaky.
The kind of writing someone does when their hands are trembling. Part of me wanted to feel satisfied. Part of me wanted to tear it up. But in the end, I did neither. I folded it neatly, quietly, and slid it into the bottom drawer of my desk, under a stack of project files. Not as a trophy, not as a wound, but as proof. Proof that sometimes the people who try to bury you forget that you're the ground they stood on. I looked at the note again that night. Just that one line. "I'm sorry." Still no name. Still no explanation. Just that. It sat on my desk like a ghost that didn't know if it wanted to leave. I picked it up, ran my fingers over the edge. Thin paper. Shaky handwriting. Like it had taken everything she had just to write those 2 words. But I didn't feel angry. Not anymore. And I didn't feel pity, either. What I felt was finished. Not the sharp satisfaction of revenge. Not the ache of betrayal, either. Just closure. Because here's the truth. She may have tried to take everything from me, my voice, my credit, my future. But in the end, I still had something she never did. The work, the knowledge, the skill to rebuild. And now the power. I slipped the note into the bottom drawer, folded it between two project files. Not to keep the pain alive, not to remind myself of what she did, but as a quiet receipt, a marker of where I started. A symbol that sometimes the biggest victories don't come with applause. They come with peace. I closed the drawer slowly, turned back to my screen. The next project blinked softly, waiting. A fresh beginning. A blank roadmap only I could write. Outside, the city glowed under a deep purple sky. Streetlights flickered on, one by one, soft, stubborn halos against the dark. And I sat there steady still, not just surviving anymore, not proving anything to anyone, just building an empire that carried my name everywhere.